what I'm asking for are just some tips for parents when it comes to this positive parenting journey and ensuring that our children are in a good mental space. We also want to raise children who are resilient, who are not going to use, I just need a day off and I need to take care of my mental health as an excuse. We don't want our children to be that as well, right? We want them to be responsible citizens. So having said that, like, how should we be with our children as they get older? And that especially when they are teenagers, and I think maybe you can relate your personal experiences.
I draw a lot of inspiration from the work of Dr. Jane Nelson, who created a field called positive discipline.
Right.
And it sounds like it doesn't work together, discipline and positive together. But she has two very nice principles, which I think are real anchors for me. First is kind and firm. Okay, so how I distinguish that is that we are kind to the person, but we are firm on the behavior that's not acceptable. So, for example, a child is unhappy with a friend and boxes the friend. And most of the response is, how can you do that? What a mean child you are. You shouldn't be doing these things. That is just responding to the behavior and collapsing the behavior together with the person. But what that means is that the child who boxed has not learned anything. They just learned that I shouldn't do that. But they don't understand why. What's wrong with that? So we need to separate, and that means that, hey, for you to have boxed your friend, wow, you must have felt really angry with him or her, right? And that's being kind to the person. You relate to the emotions, you support the emotion, but hey, it's not okay that because you were angry, you boxed that person because it has a negative impact on that person. And that's being firm. And then being firm also includes accountability. So when you say we want them to have good character, it means that we want them not to think that the world owes them everything. They actually need to be responsible humans. And by responsible means, I can't just box someone and get away with it because my mom says it's okay. That's not great. Yeah, and so part of it is also like, hey, you did hurt your friend. So what do you think you can do now to take responsibility for that? What are some consequences? And we talk through it with the child. Meaning we don't like, hey, you go and say sorry now. It's your problem. Because what do they learn? Just follow law. They're not actually making a decision.
I can just beat someone and just say sorry, law.
Yeah, precisely. And do we not see that in the news sometimes?
Yeah.
Sorry, law. It's not sincere. And they don't learn. And I think that as parents, our ultimate job is that they learn how to be good humans. But if we don't teach them, how do they learn?
Does this apply to older children?
It does.
And teenagers?
Absolutely.
Oh.
In fact, I think it applies so much to teenagers. Why? Because if you talk to any teenager, they'll be like, my mom's so unfair. Don't you hear them say things like that? It's like, I don't know why they have this curfew. And a curfew must be enacted because there's a purpose and not just because I said so.
Right.
And so we can be kind to their desire to want to push the boundary because that's how they gain their independence. But we can be firm to still push back on the boundary because for safety or whatever it is your reason. We explain it to them and not tell them. Sometimes there's a distinction. You listen to me because I'm your parent. A teenager's not going to stand for that. They will probably find a way around it. So this kind and firm is actually a very powerful principle.
Okay.
The second one is called connection before correction.
Connection before correction. Okay.
So when your child has done something wrong, the temptation is to jump in and try to correct. Because if we don't, then they will learn the right thing. But we need to connect before that. And that's
means...
as in like sit with them, talk to them, have that connection with them. Because then they'll say, oh, my mom or dad cares for me. Instead of my mom or dad can't stand me and shouted at me. This is the message they're going to get if we do correction all the time, but don't connect. Right? And so, for example, the other day, my younger one, she's 10. And then she was angry at me and she slammed the door. Right? I mean, it happens. So if I go in there, stop slamming the door, you know, that's rude, yada, yada, that's correction first. But instead, I'm like, hey, what's going on? Right? What happened at school? Because it was just when she came home, connect first. And then bring it up later. By the way, just now you slammed the door. And what do you think about that? And she's like, I'm sorry. then the I'm sorry actually comes more naturally than us forcing them to do so, right? So it's kind of a reversed way of operating. It feels unnatural, but it can have really good results. Yeah.
I like that. Very good tips.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else to add to that?
Maybe if there's another one, it's focus on the strengths of the child, not only the areas for improvement.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's very easy to be caught by what's not right with someone or the weakness of your child because we have negative bias, right? We pay more attention to what's not going right. And we try to correct what's not right. But actually in the research, we've found that paying attention to what's good and amplifying that is actually really good for a child's self-confidence and overall self-perception.